Hey folks, Nathan here with the ebookreader.com. For this video, I'm going to give you guys sort of a rundown of how PDF files work on the Remarkable 2. As I mentioned in the main review, this device is geared mostly towards writing, note-taking. The ebook and PDF features are fairly basic, but I mean, it can still serve as a basic PDF rereader if you don't have a high demands. The e-ink screen is still great for reading. The larger screen definitely better than some of the smaller devices. So on the home screen of the Remarkable, you have the option to list different sections. So you can just list the PDFs you have on your device, and then you can view them this way. And you got a few different sorting options. You don't have the option to add folders like you do on the main view, though. You can have these added into folders from the main library. But when you view your PDF list, it'll just show everything on your device that's a PDF. One of the quirks with the Remarkable is you have to use their app to load content onto here. So you have to use that to get your PDFs on here. Sometimes it's a little finicky, like I had PDFs disappear, a little bit partially downloading, and then it just didn't appear, and then I had to re-download. I don't know. It can be a little finicky, but it does work. They also have the option to plug it into your computer and use the web browser to transfer content. That is another way to get content on here. It will sync with your Remarkable account when you connect to Wi-Fi, though. But you can't just load them on here, the usual USB transfer plugging into a computer. So it is a little bit more of a hassle. But let's go ahead and load up the PDF here and just talk about some of the different features. As far as initial loading times and page turns, it's fairly decent on the Remarkable. I mean, it just has a dual-core 1.2 gigahertz processor, so it's not like a blazing fast device, just 1 gigabyte of RAM. But for PDFs, it does work for most cases, unless you have a really large PDF. But you can use the stylus to write directly on the PDFs, which is nice. You got all the available pens like you do in the Note app. You also have the highlighter, so it's a little bit different than you might expect with other e-readers. You do have to like manually highlight each line, and it's like the freehand highlighting, so it's a little bit different. Then all your notes, they'll get synced with your Remarkable account, so you can access them using the Remarkable app on your phone or your computer. You also have the option to send by email. So if we come down here, you hit the send by email link, and as long as you're connected to Wi-Fi, it'll pop up this menu here, and you can choose to export your notes into PDF, PNG, or SVG formats. You can also select multiple pages by using this option here, and then you just have your little email address to enter, and then you're good to go. You can send stuff that way as well. So you have the syncing and the email if you need to send it to somebody else. So you do have the options to get your notes off of here pretty easily. So one of the limitations with the Remarkable as a PDF reader is they don't have very many layout options. You do have this option to adjust the view, which will crop the margins. I don't know why it's using the highlighter here, but it's a little bit finicky to get the arrows to, or the lines to go exactly where you want sometimes, but you can set this to crop the page exactly where you want it. So this is like the main option for getting rid of margins. So it's going to depend greatly on the PDF you're using, like how it's going to lay out on the screen. So this one actually lays out pretty well because it doesn't have big margins, but some of them, some PDFs, they vary a lot. Some will have huge margins, and it'll be a little bit harder to use on the Remarkable, but you can crop the margins off this way, and then when you advance forward using the swipe to page forward, it will continue with the adjusted view that way. But and you can navigate your document using the page view here, so you get the thumbnail list. You can also view smaller images of thumbnails if you would like. Then you've got the table of contents view, which is just one long list. It doesn't seem to do nesting, but it's fairly quick and responsive to jump back and forth as far as loading pages goes. You also got the option to send here, so you got that send option as well if you wanted to send some pages via email. And then you've got the go-to page, which one thing that's annoying to me about this is it doesn't have an enter button down here. So you have to reach all the way up across the screen and hit OK, which is odd because when you're running searches, it does have an enter button right there, just kind of an inconsistency with the UI. But yeah, you can run searches as well. So if you wanted to search your document, just pull up the keyboard here, hit enter, and it'll give you a list of your search results. The only issue with this, unlike some other devices where you can easily just go back to the list if you want to, jump around different parts of the book, you can't do that. You'll have to just reopen the search, re-enter the search term again. So it's not exactly, streamlined if you need to run searches very often, but it is usable. So other thing we got here, it says set to landscape, but it doesn't rotate the document to landscape. It just rotates the menu to landscape, which is, fairly pointless unless your PDF just happens to be formatted for landscape view. You can rename your documents by using that option right there. And then you have different layers for the notes if you want to have different layers. And then they have this live view beta where you can view the document like on a computer. They do have a zooming option right here. It's fairly useless. I mean, you can zoom in and zoom out using that little dial there, and then you've got the little icon that pops up where you can see what part of the screen you're viewing. Then you can increase or decrease the level of zoom using this little dial here, using the plus and minus icons. So one thing, while you're zoomed in, you can also write on the screen. So right now I still have it on the highlighter. If we switch over to a pen, you can, write while zoomed in, which is kind of nice. But the only problem with the zoom function is that it does not maintain the zoom level when you turn pages. So if you turn a page, then the zoom level will reset to whatever you had it before. And it's kind of weird that you can't zoom out from the cropped view. So if you have the cropped view, it won't zoom out any further, even though it's cutting off part of the page. But you also have the option, this little icon, you can copy, paste, move stuff around. And then again, you got the different thicknesses for your pens, different colors for your pens. So the same stuff that I showed in the main review for the Note app. Again, I'm not going to go over into great detail, but the pen is very responsive. You can't really notice the lag at all. It's very responsive. You can have your hand resting on the screen. I just can't do it here just at the angle of the camera and stuff. People ask about the palm rejection. Yeah, it definitely has palm rejection. You can have your hand resting on the screen to write notes, not an issue. The note-taking aspects, yeah, very good. Just the PDF aspects, we don't have a whole lot of options. So like if you had a 2-column PDF, this is not going to work well on the Remarkable because like obviously the text is very small, hard to read. You can use the adjust view option to crop off the page here. But the issue with this is it doesn't advance down the page. You can't scroll down the page. You can't scroll at all. In fact, it doesn't have any kind of scrolling option when you're cropped like this. You can't use pinch zooming. There isn't any kind of on-screen features, no dictionary. You can't add notes or highlights using your finger or anything like that. So if you turn pages, it'll actually turn to the next full page instead of going down the document. Like some devices, you can actually page forward and it'll go down the column and then go over to the next column once you reach the bottom of that column. But it doesn't do that on the Remarkable. Again, if you're using the zoomed in option and you page forward, it'll just reset. The zoom will go back out to however you had it cropped before. So that doesn't work either. So if you have any kind of multi-column PDFs, it's just really not going to work well on the Remarkable because there is no like zooming option that stays that follows the column. Like on Onyx's e-readers, you can follow the column, which I'll show a little bit later. So basically PDFs comes in all shapes and sizes. It just sort of depends on the layout, how it's going to work on the Remarkable. If you have a basic PDF without huge margins, it's going to work pretty well. Like this PDF right here lays out on the screen nicely. But if we load up this PDF, as you can see, the text is a lot smaller. It could be a little bit harder to read. You can crop the margins a little bit, but it's still going to be smaller. It just greatly depends on how the individual PDF lays out. And, since you have limited zooming and navigation options, how it's going to work on this device. There are better options as far as PDF readers go. But, I mean, it can be a serviceable PDF reader if you have minimal needs. It is nice being able to write on the screen. Some other devices you can't do that. You also have the option to use this web browser extension that will send PDFs of the web browser and web articles in PDF format to your device. So this is a Wikipedia article. The only thing is nothing's interactive with it. None of the links work. You can't zoom in on the image or anything like that. But it's just sort of worth mentioning, another PDF aspect to the device. Let's go ahead and load up this large PDF I use for testing, visual-based PDF. Some devices get bogged down by this. The Remarkable one got a little bogged down. Like if you were paging forward quick, it would start to get that loading icon. I don't notice the loading icon appearing as much on this device. It seem with the increase in RAM, it can handle the larger PDFs a little bit better. So if you're paging forward kind of rapidly, you still get that little loading icon from time to time. It does seem to take a little bit less time to recover from that though than it did on the original Remarkable with just a half a gig of RAM, but it does have some limitations with the hardware. All right, so here's just a quick look at the Onyx Note 2. It also has a 10.3-inch ink screen. This device is much better for PDF reading. You have a global contrast adjustment. You can also adjust contrast with individual apps. So with PDFs, sometimes they have that lighter text. You can see right here, you can get the text a lot darker just using the contrast adjustment. The Onyx Note also has a front light, so you have the orange and the cool colored front light. So that's an option as well. So the Onyx is more expensive. It's over $500, but it's a lot more suitable as a PDF reader. You got all kinds of features with this device. But I mean, if you want to spend more money, it is worth it. But the Remarkable, it's a lot cheaper. It doesn't have the light. It's a slower processor. The Onyx has an octa-core processor, 4 gigabytes of RAM. Or is it 2 gigabytes? I think it's 4 gigabytes on the Note. The smaller model has 2 gigabytes and the Nova has 3. So you got all these different cropping and zooming options. And with the Onyx software, it's a lot more advanced. You can change to landscape mode if you want. You got the active hyperlinks. I accidentally didn't hit it there to scroll the page, but if you hit that, you can use the hyperlinks. And the cool thing about it is it has these different navigation modes. So if you wanted to have like a dual column PDF, you can have it set up to go down the column. You can have more quadrant zones set up. You can have 6 if you wanted, so it'll follow the zones. So yeah, a lot more advanced. And you also have the tabbed view up here. So if you had multiple documents open at once, you can have up to 4 tabs here to switch between your PDFs. You can also view 2 PDFs at once in landscape mode. So you have these different options here. You can view a PDF with a note. You can view a PDF and a different PDF. So you got a lot more functionality, a lot more thought out for PDFs on the Onyx Note 2. So I'll probably do a full comparison between these devices. I just kind of wanted to give you a quick look at something that's, you know, a lot more advanced for PDFs. Just for some comparison reasons. Another cool thing about the Onyx is it has all your thumbnails of your notes you've added here, all your bookmarks and stuff like that. Remarkable doesn't even have bookmarks. So a lot more advanced for PDFs. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. Check out the ebookreader.com. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.